Welcome to Virtual Cortaca. My name is Dan MacNeill, a former Red Dragon player, 69 alum, and a former head football coach here to party with the alumni office to celebrate Cortaca remembrance. The goal is to celebrate a great rivalry, revered nationally as the biggest game in the nation. A rivalry evolving and dating back some 90 years.
We were talking football, and somebody had a football magazine there, and one of us said, the Brown Jug, or somebody was playing for Minnesota, and somebody was playing for the Little Brown Jug, and said, we ought to play for something. Well, Carmine says, you get something and we'll play for it. So a couple of days later, I was over around Homer, and I drove by a farmhouse, and the guy had a bunch of those on his front porch. So I pulled in and asked him if he would sell me one. He said, yeah. So I think I bought it for like $3.
The joy of Cortaca is walking away the victor in that game. And what I have with me here, joining us in this virtual conference, is a bunch of warriors that experienced that very feeling. And they're here to recount that game and that experience that they enjoyed as alums from our school. First, George Ampagutian. An alum, a 65 alum who played fullback here in 1964 in that 16-0 home victory. George, you want to share us your thoughts about that game, that victory?
Well, I think I was a halfback, and it was kind of cold. And that was before we had those real nice covered hooded jackets that you guys have now. So when you got a chance to play, you better have been running up and down the sidelines because you were one frozen turkey. The next week was the Ithaca game, and I got my big chance to go out there and field a punt. I'm standing in front of the Ithaca bench, and they're yelling at me, "Hey, George, catch the ball," and they point to their goal. Run that way, thinking I was probably the dumbest sucker on the field. And I think I responded with something like a salty hand motion.
George, next, I got Rodney Verke, a 69 alum, a Hall of Famer here at Cortland, who played DN.
At Cortland in 1964, and then I took a year off to study and started back up again with football in 66, 67, 68. Very fortunate and proud to say that we won all those games with Ithaca. Each one is memorable, but I think the three things that really make a rival are proximity, which they are close to us, 20 miles away, the longevity of it, which started in 1930, and the main thing is the competitiveness. And Ithaca and Cortland were always competitive, and I think you got to have those three things to make a rivalry. I played both ways. I played offensive end, as John Anselmo can tell you. He threw me one pass that I remember in the game, and then he tackled me after that. But with the rivalry of Ithaca, that brings back the most memorable, favorable memories to me.
Next up, a warrior, John Anselmo, who spent time, notably at every level, including the NFL. And he was a part of the 7-0 home victory here in 1970. Also a Hall of Famer here at Cortland.
Well, when I think of 70, I have to think, I got there in 67, and like Verk said, they had won 66, 67, 68. I was on that 68 team. And in 69, it became like a revenge game in 70, because in 69 we were undefeated. We had a game scrimmage against Cornell. We beat Cornell when they had Marinaro. We went on the road to Springfield, beat them, went on the road to Central Connecticut, 9-hour drive, beat them, went down to play Post, beat them. We come back up to play Ithaca, and we lost that game. So in 70, it was all about revenge. They came in undefeated, and As George said, it was a cold, wet, windy, rainy day. And I look back to remember the game. You know, we moved the ball up and down the field, but we couldn't score. We finally scored a touchdown. I just kind of ran off tackle for one, but we never got into the end zone after that. And the defense did a great job. You know, any win is a good win, but that one was particularly pleasant because of, you know, the year before when we thought that we had it going, they kind of upended us. So it was kind of fitting that we did the same thing to them that next year, you know, on our home field. Yeah, it was sweet revenge to get the cup, the jug back to Cortland on the 70 win.
Love that.
Before I go on, let's get this straight. When I threw that pass to Verk in the Montclair game, sophomore year, I went down to throw a block for him, and he you know, wasn't as fast as he was then. You know, we kind of collided. He says I tackled him. You know, I told him I was trying to help him score. So let's get this story straight. We did both go down. We did both go down.
Two different memories right there. Two different contexts. I love it. I love it. Thanks, John. Next up, in 1970, Peter Graham, another Hall of Famer here, a 74 alum and former linebacker from 72 to 73, had a victory at Cortland, 21 to 16. Peter, thanks for being here and sharing those thoughts on that game.
Dick Wheaton, head of the defense, he was a fantastic person, a fantastic coach, and he always got us ready for every game. So going into it, it was kind of a slow build up to what this really meant. What it meant to me was, you know, I got to do this for Cortland. It wasn't anything that was, you know, inside of me personally, but I certainly had Cortland pride going, and I wanted to perform as best as possible. And if I remember, you said, Coach, there aren't any films, there isn't any way to, you know, verify what I'm saying. So I'm going to tell you, I played great that day. We won it on a last minute touchdown pass by my good friend Gary Theobald, our tight end. He was a real workhorse. Probably shouldn't say this, but we had one play, and I ended up having to block Ed Griska, or he blocked me, but anyway, we ended up in the bottom of the pile, and somehow my fingers got inside his face mask, and I was poking his eyes a little bit, just friendly pokes, but I knew it was him. I didn't play like that. I knew it was him, and he was screaming and hollering and yelling and, you know, cursing at me, and we got up in the pile. When he saw it was me, we started laughing. He was hugging me, and, you know, so it was great sportsmanship in that game, not just because of my interaction with Ed Griska, but you could tell that both teams knew it was a heck of a tradition, and both teams wanted to win that game like anything. And at the end of the game, you know, we shook their hands, and, you know, thank God we came away with the jug that day.
Love those remembrances. Thank you. In the last warrior here, or in the sequence of talking us through these Cortaca Jugs in 1982, Robert Bateson, an 83 alum, middle linebacker from 79 to 82. He was the leading tackler then, and still is the leading tackler in our record books for one season, and he's the third-time all-career tackler here still to this day.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity to be with all these great former players and alumni. Knowing the history before I got there in 79, originally on my way to Kent State University, and in the 11th hour ended up coming to Cortland, and it's was one of the best moves of my life. I still get chills thinking of Cortland in that game, particularly that rivalry. As was, the guys have mentioned in the past, what makes a great rivalry is that there's a history that's behind it. And in that game, we had that year we had two other great linebackers with me, Mike Greco on the outside and Brian Mooney on the other side. And we had played together solid for 3 years where we knew each other's movements and thought patterns on that field. And both those guys ended up not being in that game. Brian Mooney had a knee injury, he was out, and Mike Greco had left for the state troopers. They left the last 3 games of the season open. So we had guys that came in to fill those shoes, which are big shoes to fill, and stepped up to that occasion. I think that it doesn't matter what the record of your season is. When that game comes to fruition, it's all on the line. And you can have a losing season and get beat them, and vice versa. You get a winning season and get beat, and that makes your whole season. That game can make or break the whole season. And that was to this day, it's that magnitude of that and how it feels is special. I think anyone that's ever been involved with Cortland and played on the Cortland football feels that, but I think it has spilled over into the student body of Cortland as well.
I'm glad to be a little bit of a part of this. I appreciate it, Coach.
We used to play them like the third or fourth game of the year, but when they moved the game back to the end of the season and it was the final game, what Bob said was, you could make or break your season by beating Ithaca.
The rivalry with Ithaca is certainly a highlight, but to me, the biggest thing was the relationships that I had with the coaches and the players that I were able to play with. And there's something about playing with different players over the years, and time and distance. I haven't seen some of the guys for 50 years. Time and distance doesn't matter as far as your relationship and your friendship and your memories. So I will always remember the Ithaca games, but I'll remember the guys that I played with and the coaches that I had right along with that.
On the campus of Cortland State University, I'm Andy Brussel, and welcome to Bombers Football 1988. This afternoon, a matchup with the Cortland State Red Dragons, a battle of unbeatens. Both teams coming into today's contest at a perfect 8-0.
Okay, welcome back. Joining us for the 1988 remembrance is legendary coach Dennis Kaiser, who in his second year of his 3-year term here as head football coach built the 1988 team. And also with us is Steve Woodard, his linebacker, a 1998 alum, but was a senior captain in that 88 team. Thanks for joining us, guys.
What you don't see in the clip, the clip starts after the first play of the game, which I think there was only about 12 seconds off the clock. Ithaca went 65 yards in the very opening play of the game with Paul Parker running the dive play. So all of a sudden we're down 7-0, and I think I looked at the scoreboard and it was like 14 minutes and 48 seconds left in the first quarter. So we took a deep breath and said, okay, let's start over here and let's hang in there. I just remember talking to Coach Cheplick and just saying, hey, let's just take a deep breath here and try to get back in this thing as fast as we can.
We got down early, and one of the things that I think was evident throughout the entire season that year was that we were a resilient bunch of guys, and despite being down early, we were able to regroup, refocus, and claw our way back into the game. And the fact that we had close to 10,000 people at the game certainly energized us when things started going our way.
Each week, it seemed like one win followed another, Dan, and we were just trying to play like everybody does, from week to week, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in a position of being, 8-0 going into the game. And fans just, the more you won, the more they came out to see what's going on with this team out there, and it was exciting to see the crowd that came out. And I think what really got us going in the second quarter, which you saw in the clip, was Greg Barrett blocked the punt from Ithaca's end zone, and it went through the end zone for safety, but it really energized the team, really got us going, even though we were down 7-2 at the time.
Probably a lot of people don't know is we were coached right. We were coached to play one game at a time that year, but there were an awful lot of guys on the Ithaca team who we knew pretty well. 4 or 5 that went to high school in Rochester that I knew. So this collision course of 2 undefeated teams, although we didn't talk a lot about it, we could kind of see it happening week 4 or week 5, and there were phone calls, and unfortunately back in those days, no text messages or anything like that, but we did make a few phone calls back and forth early on, and And we were looking forward to both teams hopefully being undefeated at that time. And I think that buildup helped a little bit. There were a lot of familiar faces on that field.
We have joining us with us is Sarah Woodard, Steve's lovely wife, a 91 alum who was a super fan. She was a cheerleader. She was involved in the kick line. And Sarah, now would be a moment for me to ask you, what is your word or maybe your sentiment regards to Cortaca?
Sharing your word, the word that came to mind for me was family. This is, when I came to Cortland as a freshman, I didn't even really know what the game was all about. It was in Ithaca that year, my freshman year, and we were like, what's this thing? And, none of us really went. And then my sophomore year, when I was cheerleading, it took on a whole new meaning then. And then as an alum who's married to a member of the 88 team, and when he says that those guys are in touch on a daily, weekly basis, he's not kidding. And they are fiercely loyal. And so I just think of family. That's what it's become for us.
Another key third down situation. Houghton lines up far side, Sirico near side. Kiefer back to pass. Good protection. Kiefer lofts along in the end zone, and it is. It's a call for a touchdown. What a pass and what a catch. And what a pass and catch. Mark Houghton comes down with a touchdown reception. Cortland has taken a 21-20 lead with 9:44 to go in the game.
Out of your offense?
Well, there were an awful lot of penalties there. That was unfortunate. We hadn't been treated thusly in games so far this year, and that made a difference in the ballgame.
A Warrior who joins me now, Barry Thornton, from the 1992 victory, home victory, which was a 22-20 victory, a 2-point victory. For that year, that 88th Red Dragon that Barry and his teammates built, along with Dave Murray, who spoke with us earlier today, and we'll join him virtually. As I had mentioned to Dave, it seems like it was a tipping point that these years that you were in, nobody really knew, but looking back on it, there had only been, 9 possessions of the Jug since 1959, but interest in the rivalry was really grown. All along there was good crowds, but now there was a national interest as the game was tagged as being the biggest little game in the nation by ESPN. Barry was a captain. He's a 93 grad, a linebacker who played from 98 to 92. And Coach, what are your thoughts about that 1992 victory?
It was amazing. 1988 team was really the first team in the kind of that era that had beaten Ithaca in a while. And so I came in right after that. I mean, that was a lot of us who joined the team that were seniors in 92 really came based off of the 88 success. And it was just amazing. We hadn't beaten them up to that point. We'd had some close games. And we came into that game actually probably record-wise, the worst record in the 4 years that we had. And they came in defending national champions, #1 in the country, 15 to 18 game winning streak, Coach Butterfield going for his 200th victory. I mean, they just had everything rolling at that point. We were coming off a big loss to a team that ended up playing for the national championship, Washington Jefferson. And it was one of those things where it was gut check time. And what are the Dragons going to bring to it? And probably having that Cortaca game at that point was the right point for us, because we were ready and we were going to show everybody that, we still had the fight in us and we believed we were going to win that game. It was probably one of the craziest games that you'll see in a while. Those when you see the highlights and see the film, it was one of those things where we dominated them on the defensive side. They came in with this great offense, but really they ended up scoring 1 touchdown, and it was in the last drive there at the end where we had a 9-yard punt. So they got the ball right at the 10-yard line, and with 30 seconds left or something in that range, ended up scoring to be down by 2, and then the 2-point conversion comes up. So we had really played a great game all game long. They only had the one offensive touchdown, and it really came down to that. There was one of those things where at halftime we were down by 1, we missed an extra point. The year before, we were tied going in at halftime, and then they came out and kind of blew us away in the third quarter. And so the third quarter was critical for us. And I think, we had this great drive that pretty much went all the way down the field and just pounded right at them. And that was kind of the point where I was like, all right, we feel really good right now. You can't stop us. And, you're having a hard time moving the ball on us. And so they did get that touchdown at the end. 2-point conversion comes up and 13 seconds left. They tried to roll out, our defensive back made a great play, knocked it down. And from that point, bedlam just happened in terms of fans all over the field, a guy riding a bike on the field. I mean, we couldn't get people off the field with still 13 seconds left. I still get chills just thinking about it and seeing the video, but just an amazing feeling.
Are the receivers. The handoff goes to him, and he has the first down. It all goes in the spot now. I thought he had it. I may have been premature.
His initial surge looked like he might have gotten it over the 40.
Things have gotten awful quiet here at Carl Chugger Davis Field as we await the referee's signal.
It's all on the spot.
Looks like they've marked it right up to the 40. We're going to have a measurement. We'll take a look at it.
He just had nothing. He got hit in the backfield and was able to try and push his way in, but the Cortland defense surging backwards.
They bring the chains out, and everybody huddling around the ball. Still no signal from the official. No! Whitman was unable to get the X. Cortland stopped them. Whitman can't believe it. Cortland State will take over with the lead. The defense holds again.
We're joined by Dave Murray, who spent 10 years here at Cortland. In '92, Dave was the head coach of the victory, 22-20 home victory. And again, I think started a real tipping point in the Cortaca Jug series, where really Cortland has only won 9 of them since 1959, and that would really change, unbeknownst to Dave at the time, in his time here as the momentum off the '88 team. So Dave, you want to talk about the clips that we have for you, and then off the '92 game?
I mean, it was a great football game, and it was a little bit different from the standpoint of, it was a game that we, Cortland, dominated statistically, and yet it was one of those games that came down to the very final play. In this game, I think we held them to just over 200 yards of total offense, and one of the unique statistics was Ithaca only completed 1 pass the entire afternoon. And it was a back and forth game, and we finally took the lead. We felt good about it. We kicked a field goal. We went up 22-14 in the fourth quarter. So we're up by 8. And then things got interesting. So now we're in the fourth quarter, and there's only, there's about a little less than 2 minutes left in the game, and Ithaca's going in to score. So they have a 4th and goal, and I want to say it was from our 2-yard line with just under 2 minutes. So they're on offense. We stop them and get the ball back. So we have the ball inside our own 5. There's about 1 minute and 50 seconds left now. We're still up by 8. We run 3 plays. We don't get anything. We're just trying to kill the clock. They use their timeouts. So now there's about a minute and a half left, and it's 4th down on our own 2-yard line. And Coach Mack, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, we're up 8 on our own 2, minute and a half left. You know, this was a huge decision. You know, do we take a safety and punt the football, or do we punt it and, you know, thinking they've got to score 8 to tie the game? So I made the decision, okay, let's go ahead and punt this. And so we punt the football, and it didn't travel real far. And we had a heck of a punter, but this time I think it got tipped, and it went 6 yards. So Ithaca takes over on our 8-yard line, 1st and goal, just under a minute and a half. They run a couple plays, and they score with, there's like, I want to say maybe 30 seconds left in the game. So now we're up 22-20 with, like I said, maybe 30 seconds left. So they're obviously going to go for the 2-point conversion to try and tie this thing up and send it to overtime. We made a big stop on defense. And so we hang in there. So now we're up 22-20, the final score. They come out, they do an onside kick, and now there's like 15 seconds left. It hits one of their players. Their player actually touches it, has it, but then bobbles it, and we end up hanging on to win the football game. But it was just a crazy ending, and the snow flurry started. It'll never, people there that will never forget the weather. It was a nice day, and then the snow flurries, the snow came down in the 4th quarter. And actually on the 2-point play, the crowd had stormed the field. And they were so Ithaca's going in, it's in the Chugger Dome, Ithaca's going in for the 2-point play, and the crowd was already on the 50-yard line. And they were closed in. The field was like 35 yards of where people could actually move as football players. And then when we stopped them, they stormed the field, and they had to get them all off because they still had, there was like I said, maybe 10 seconds left for them to try the onside kick. So it was just complete chaos towards the end of that football game. But so exciting, just a great game.
We're sprinting with a motion man, and thought that we had a good chance at that. The only man that they coveted it very well. The only man that was open.
Recovered by the Bombers. Jason Potts has. Now he lost control of it. Cortland had it. Jason Potts had it for a second, but was unable to hang on. No official signal as of yet.
It looked like Potts had it. I didn't see a Cortland player take it away from him.
Cortland State has emerged from the pile with the football. 12 seconds remaining. This ball game is over. Tony Fuccio, the backup defensive back, came up with it. 12 seconds remaining. Wild will kneel down once, and this ball game will be. Ithaca did go on to win a national championship that year. Now the fans can storm the field as the clock will run out. This ball game is over. Cortland State has defeated Ithaca College in the 34th hug for the Cortaca Jug by the final score of 22-20. And Chris, this game just had it all.
Absolutely. This was the most exciting game we've called all year. And again, the Bombers' offense couldn't move the ball. You can't expect the defense to win the game for you. Special teams can only do so much.
The Bomber offense only able to muster 1 touchdown. The last 6 points coming on a Joe Fitzgerald quarterback sneak. The first 2 touchdowns, of course, the long punt returns, but it was not enough. Cortland hangs on for the 22-20 win over the Bombers.
Then skill, not true luck, but this is skill. Number 98, Arcal True Luck. With the sack and 11-yard loss, the fumble would be recovered by Briggs Badijan, the offensive lineman. 6 tackles, 1 sack on the day for Arcal.
Game management became a big issue, in Cortaca. I love that, right? And that's kind of what I inherited out of your era, boy. They were nervous about running the game because the fever and momentum had picked up. Why don't you talk about the 96 win when, you built that 92nd Red Dragon here to grace the field. And in that year, you had a resounding, a pounding, a 41-13 home victory, which was, again, sold out and I guess high drama.
When you look at the final score, Coach Mack, and you say, hey, we beat them pretty handily. But as you know, the final score can sometimes not be indicative of how good a football game it was. So, yeah, we did end up winning that one 41-13. But the score at half was 7-0. And, this was a kind of a game of turnovers. I know Ithaca turned it over about 4 times. We only turned it over once. But we're ahead 7-0 at half because we blocked a punt for a touchdown. And then, so it's 7-0 going into the third. We score one more. We go up 14-0. And then we return a fumble for a touchdown. So we're up 20-0 and, feeling kind of good, like things are going to be okay. And then it becomes 20-6. We score again. Then they score, and it's 27-13 in the fourth. And you're just feeling like, oh man, this thing, you never had the comfortable feeling on the sideline like, okay, we got this thing locked away. Because in that game, it never seems to be that way. But then we were able to, we put some really good drives together offensively, and our last 6 drives offensively in the second half resulted in touchdowns.
And your final score from Carl Chugger Davis Field, Cortland 41 and Ithaca 13. This one of the numerous times.
Well, certainly this is a very exciting game for our football team and our school, and I think football in general, so we're going to be excited about playing it.
It's a game of huge stature, 2 prideful schools with excellent football programs.
A great team, probably the best, by far the best team we'll play this year.
And it'll be another battle like it is every Saturday.
That game should be a war.
Okay, Coach MacNeill back again after speaking with Coach Murray, which brings us up to 1997 that year into the NCAA playoffs. Here to join us with their recollections and their remembrances, I have Coach Ulysses Grant, C.C. Grant, better known as C.C. Grant, 92 graduate alum, got his master's in 95. He was a fullback for the Red Dragons from 89 to 90. He was a 7-year Red Dragon assistant coach from 91 to 98. With me, 3 victories as an assistant coach. Went on to a 22-year coaching career at the Coast Guard Academy, where this past year he was appointed the head coach. Welcome, Coach Grant.
Thanks. Nice to be here, Coach Mack.
And then I have also Anthony Falco, one of my first captains. A 99 graduate. He got his master's degree here in 02. He was a 4-year wide receiver. He was the captain of that team, that 93rd Red Dragon built that went on to break that 30-year dry spell on South Hill in that 1997 victory. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey, thank you, Coach. It's great to be here.
Coach Grant, why don't you give us your recollections of that 97 game?
That day, if I remember, it was kind of rainy and cold and snowing. And before the game, I was trying to figure out what I was going to say to the offense before we played. So earlier that morning, I went out to the field, out to old Chugger Davis Field, and I grabbed a little bit of chunk of grass and a piece of sod. And I believe Chris Mahar was with me. And went out, I cut it, and I put it in a plastic bag. And before the game, I remember Mac used to always say, all we need is a little piece of, a little drop of poison will ruin a fine wine. And I gave the guys, I gave them a little speech before the offense, a little speech before the game. And I said, fellas, I got our glass of wine. This is about 30 years of heartache that we're about to break today. And I remember throwing that down on the field. And I didn't think it was going to have the effect that it did. But I turned around, and these guys all had like tears in their eyes. So from there, it was an unbelievable game. Just from the way it started to the way it ended, and just a great group of guys. Because somehow all that year it all came together, and to go up there and beat them was kind of top that year off on our way to the NCAA. So that's just one of the memories I have. It kind of started something, I guess, with that piece of grass and using that. So that I think you still use right up to the day that you retired. So
I do remember that speech. I do remember that piece of turf, and I remember how fired up we got. That was a huge thing right there. Huge thing, which it got us going. I do remember the same muddy, misty, and cold day. I remember they had those flamethrowers on the sideline. We almost melted my receiver glove because we were so cold, and you couldn't get away from them because it was freezing. Once the game got going, you didn't feel it, but it was cold. We were both 7-1. It was just the magnitude of the game. You really can't describe to people that have never been involved in it. I remember we went up right away. I don't know. We scored the first touchdown, but then they came back. I do remember at one point we're up what I thought was significantly, and then all of a sudden there was a big letdown in the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. And before you knew it, I mean, we were up 21-10 or something, and then all of a sudden we're losing by one. It was one of those where you couldn't get out of a funk, and it was just very intense. But it was a battle with family, and we pulled it out. I couldn't believe it. We pulled it out on that last play.
Yeah, that game specifically, I was kind of thinking about some of the highlights, whether it be, we ran a play with the Z slip Y wheel that never ever worked ever in practice, and we hit, I forget the tight end's name, Ross, somebody on the sideline, and there was nobody within 10 yards of it, and Mahar was calling for the play since the middle of the third quarter. We hit that, or Eric Bernard almost taking it all the way back to the house, and I probably made the worst play call I've ever made as a coach when I called a bootleg and the ball's on inside the one, and they pick it off and take it the other way. But to me, it really is about what college football is about. If you play this game at this highest level and you get to play and be a part of something like this, and I'm not talking about from a fan's perspective, but from a coach, be able to say I have played in that game and I have coached in that game, and it's been some of the best memories of my life. All right, and it's become a part of me, a part of who I am as a coach. Every game that I've coached here, and at the Coast Guard, we have a big rivalry with the Merchant Marine Academy. I always have to compare it back to Cortland, Ithaca, because it's been that big. And it's everything to me. And usually, we play the same week as you guys play. Cortland plays Ithaca, and the first thing I do when I get off the field is I come to my office or I go to my phone and I check the score, because I want to know who won that game. So it's been so good to me, just because the guys that I got the chance to play the game with, the guys I got to coach the game with, and the kids that I got to coach in that game. I know what it means to them, and it's just, for football, you can't get any better than that. So to me, it really is what college football is about.
Love that sentiment. And actually, I'm remiss. Coach Anthony Felco was also a player and a coach here too. So he's been in both ends of that too. Anthony, anything you want to share as we conclude this segment?
Yeah, Cortaca, it definitely runs deep in my family. First, as a kid, attending games that my brother played. He was a freshman back in '84. I used to go to those games as an 8, 9, 10-year-old. And then he started to coach. I remember actually holding his headset cord for him as a coach. CeCe was playing. I'm like, look at the size of that guy right there. And as a fullback, I'm watching them toss him the ball. And I'm like, holy cow, this guy's big and he could move. And I'm like, I want to play in this game. I've seen it year after year, and I just want to be a part of it. So I got to luckily then go as a freshman. My brother was still coaching, and I had one of the greatest years where I got to play for my brother in 1994. So we experienced that game together. I don't want to talk about that 94 game, but on Chugger, it was a tough one. But that was just an amazing experience that year. I then finished. He then went home and continued to coach, and I finished out my career. And I played 3 more years, and that 97 finale of my playing career was incredible after that 30-year drought. And then you were lucky, and I was lucky enough to have you want me to stay on and coach, and I got another 4 years out of it. So I definitely got my money's worth. And I would not trade those years back for anything in the world.
Lux throws for it all. End zone. Incomplete. Game over. Cortland wins.
Unbelievable, Kevin. Speechless. Unbelievable. The coaches next to us can't believe it. Unbelievable. What a game.
For the first time in 30 years, Cortland State has won 2 in a row. For the first time in over 30 years, Cortland State has won at Butterfield Stadium.
In the second quarter, and at halftime, it was 7-21. Hence the biggest comeback. Cortland then would take and score the next 2 touchdowns, and then kick and have an extra point blocked actually to tie the game. And so we were behind, and Ithaca was ahead by 1 until the fourth quarter, when Jeff Humble threw a Rocco Colucci pass for a touchdown, which every, all the defensive coaches saying, hey, punt it, put them down there, make the field as long as we can with the time left. But we completed it, got it, and the 2-point play was intercepted. So there was only a 5-point lead with 11 thrilling minutes to end that game to stop Ithaca from scoring, which we did.
Everybody talks about, hey, every game's a winnable game, whether it's 10 games, 9 games, 12 games, want to go to the playoffs. But the game of Cortaca, there's nothing better than that game. And when you sit there and you listen to the stories of what the game means to you, I'll never forget sitting there on that Friday night and listen to my fellow teammate that's on here, Corey David, expressing and how much the game meant to him, how much he loved each other, and how much we're going to go out there and have an opportunity to win the biggest rivalry in Division III history. And going out there and that, driving down on Route 13, you take 2 buses and you drive, it's stone cold silence, and you think about your career. You think about what you're going to do in a ball game. You know your assignments. You know your adjustments. And then you go out there. You run out there for a warm-up opportunity, and it's the best feeling you've ever had in your life. You got anywhere between 18 and 20,000 people sitting there. You got half of it blue, half of it obviously blood red. And you go and you look at the opportunity that you have to create a legacy for yourself and your fellow teammates. And that game, luckily I had an opportunity, not to bring anything back from, 1998, but that game specifically, and what obviously the outcome is, you talked about it so articulate there, Coach Mack, on how this team in 1999 persevered. And, we've had our struggles. We had our ups and downs in that season. And we came out that second half, and I'll never forget of going, on that sideline and having, Corey and a guy named Russ Alger, and then, like you talked about, Jeff Humble, guys that were leaders, that were in the program and understood what it took to go out, regardless of what a scoreboard said, and be able to take advantage of being a winner.
We knew what we had to do, and all of a sudden that second half, it was clicking. It was clicking, and we were getting some stops. I was lucky enough to get a big turnover early in the fourth quarter. to help put us in a scoring position. So I was just, it's just there's so many memories and so many amazing moments from that game that, you can't even explain. It's just one of those ones, you got to see it. You wish you were there.
Cortaca is, the best rivalry I've ever been a part of. Whether I've been at, the D3 level or had a great opportunities to be here at the NFL level, and there's nothing like it. I mean, when you got two teams, in 30 miles spread from each other.
Right up the gut, knock a couple of people over. So you can see on the year, 3 touchdowns, over 4 yards a carry on 58 carries. So he definitely does a good job of getting Cortland those couple of yards that they always need, especially down here in a goal line situation.
Low to the ground, 5'11", 225, the senior from Medina, New York. 2nd and 5. Handoff, and he's in. Stalker on a little misdirection play, and the fullback snuck away from the defense for the score. Look at him packed in the stands. Everybody bundled up in a bit of a chilly fall afternoon. Tutwiler rolling out to the far side, rolling against the grain, looking into the end zone, complete touchdown! Beautifully thrown pass to 24, Neil Heaton Jr., and another score for Cortland.
Tutwiler doing a great job as usual, buying himself time. Both quarterbacks so mobile, able to do so many things. Great throw on the run by Tutwiler.
Welcome back. Segment 6 in the midst of this great rivalry. Our last conversation about the '99 rivalry with Coach Reverovich and Coach David kind of brings us to a 2-year dry spell up to 2002. When we opened our stadium here, our brand new stadium, and it was anointed in that rivalry with a great victory, 16-2, with 2 red zone defensive stands. Here to join us to visit about that game is Adam DiPietro. He's a 2003 alum, a defensive lineman for us, was the captain of that team, that 98th Red Dragon that was built and graced Cortland football, and also J.J. Tutwiler, an 06 grad, quarterback in his career here, the captain both of the 02 and 03 years, and both are here to recall those videos and help us as we work this remembrance of Cortaca. So I'll start with you, Adam. 2002, brand new stadium, right? And 2 great stands at the end to really gain that small margin of victory. What are your recollections of that game?
Well, as always, when we play Ithaca, every year, it's one of the best offensive lines that we face every year. I mean, technicians, very well coached guys. You had to earn everything you got those games, extremely physical. And, looking back to, those goal line stands, I know if we give up a score there, we lose, right? And I think, if I remember correctly, Ithaca ran 8 straight plays from inside the 5-yard line, those back-to-back drives, and we held them to 0 points. What I do remember clearly, still to this day, was I'll never forget the demeanor out there with the defense on those last 2 drives. Just looking at all the experience that we had, everybody was dialed in, focused. We worked 4 years to get to that point. No panic. Everybody knew what they had to do. And, I think that an analogy that gets thrown out there a lot in sports is one play at a time, where this truly was one play at a time, never looked forward. That's what I was most proud of, just looking at those guys in the huddle. We came a long way in those 4 years, and to be able to do that, and pretty much, that ended my Cortland career, that game. And, the stand's great, but I'll never forget the dialed-in eyes that we had out there.
Yeah, man, what high drama at the end of that game. JJ, on the offensive side, give your remembrance of the 0-2 game.
Well, we knew going into the game it was going to be a battle. I mean, I think at the time both teams only maybe had one or two losses. So there's playoff implications in the line. We knew we had to put points up. We knew that they can put points up. That year our defense was tremendous. I think towards the end of the game we maybe relied a little bit heavily on them, as opposed to putting it away when we could. But the atmosphere, the excitement, that goal line stance, both goal line stances, was definitely etched in the history, they say. So I think that it would have been very difficult to score with 20 seconds if they were to punch that in there at the end. So those two goal line stances were just utterly tremendous. True testament to the preparation our defense had, and really, just was a joy to be around, a privilege to play in that game.
Yeah, and that game obviously led to an ECAC postseason game that we have now distinguished ourselves in that postseason play, and it would really come back to life in 0-2. And the other thing that I remember as a head football coach is being able to take an aerial photo that was taken of that game and take it on the road to recruiting. Just a marvelous stage that was built here at Cortland to host a game in a rivalry such as that. Now to 2003, and JJ would return again as a captain, as I had mentioned, and we would travel over to Ithaca, and we had a 16-15 victory, a 1-point victory. There was 2 fourth down conversions that also took place kind of in that midfield that kept drives alive during that game. But most notably, everybody talks about the high drama where it's third down. I think it was third down. JJ, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But you're getting pressured out of the pocket, and as you're getting tackled, you throw the ball to the middle of the field. And Heaton, a wide receiver, had already slipped and fell, got up and caught the ball for a 35-yard gain, and that drive ended on the 26-yard line. And Ryan DeCamp goes out with no time on the clock and kicks that ball through the uprights for a 1-point win. Now I want to steal all of that thunder for you, but that was fun. JJ, talk about your recollection of that game.
That game was interesting. Heading into that game, we weren't having the season that we wanted at the time. We had obviously had a lot of senior leadership in the previous year and lost a lot of key members of our offense and defense. So, we really tried to gear our game plan towards running the football against Ithaca, which I think we compiled maybe over 200 yards that game rushing. The field conditions were a little bit sloppy, as you mentioned that last play. Neil slipped. But the lead up to that game, we knew we had to run the ball. We knew it was going to be a battle. That last drive in particular, I believe it was actually a bootleg where we were going to have Tony Romano cutting across the middle, and we were trying to look for him or the right. I'm not sure who the receiver was at the time. Maybe Marzullo. But I caught on the corner of my eye as I was getting tackled, Neil running the backside post, and I thought to myself, well, this is going to be it. It's going to be all or nothing. I think it was like 3rd and 18 at the time too. And I saw him coming across the middle. It was him and the defender. I threw it up there. He slipped. In fact, both of them slipped. He got up first, caught the ball, and really the rest is history. So, some plays are just meant to be, and I think that, who would have known what would have happened if we didn't catch that ball? But he did, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, in playing at Ithaca, the sound comes right down onto you. And I remember how quiet that stadium got. Not the Cortland sidelines, but certainly it was quiet on the other half as all the breath was taken out of them there. And then obviously to that field goal. So great remembrances, men, and we appreciate it. And so we want to kind of tie this up with what Cortaca means to you as a former player. Even JJ was a former assistant coach, even after his play. So, guys, I'll start with you, Adam. Your remembrance or your sentiment of what Cortaca means to you?
I think for me, it was more of looking around and seeing what it meant to everybody else as well. I was fortunate enough to play with, a couple guys that coached me at Cortland, Jason Rebrovich, Corey David, and seeing those guys tear up before kickoff, what it meant to those guys. And I think at that age, we're all kind of living in our own bubble, right? And you start to see when you leave college how much it means to so many people. We did a watch party here in Albany a few years ago, first time, and we expected 25 people to show up, and we had over 200 people show up. And there's watch parties in Los Angeles, New York City. I mean, I think too, when you were able to have the Cortaca Jug at MetLife last year, it allowed us all to come back where it fit everybody. And seeing the people I haven't seen in 20 years and guys that recruited me that I played with maybe only for a year before they graduated, it almost means more as time goes on. You don't realize back then how important it was. You knew you had to win. You knew that much. But I think when you start to look around and see what it means to other people, and it just means that much more.
Love that sentiment. JJ?
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback on that. Cortaca, it's a special day. It's definitely a special day. It's a special game. I think it's a game that everyone circles on the calendar. It's really a day full of excitement, enthusiasm, a lot of school pride, the support from the friends and family, the faculty, not only for Ithaca, but Cortland as well. Both schools, a lot of school pride. And I think that, no matter what the team's records are, we knew it was going to be a 4-quarter war. Typically, it comes down to the last few plays of the game to decide who wins these games. But it was a true honor and a privilege to represent SUNY Cortland in our program and take the field with my teammates. And definitely a time in my life that I look back often and smile.
Well, man, I hope I'm still with you. I can't see myself, but what a great pleasure reminiscing with you guys here. And thank you for being a part of this. And go Red Dragons.
That's right.
Wichita State.
Joining me for the remembrance of the 2005 and 2006 seasons First, I have Robert DeThomasis, an 05 alum, an offensive lineman for us in his time here, and captain of that of the 101st Red Dragon that was built here, as well as the previous year. He was also elected captain. Along with him, Steph Sayre, an 07 alum, defensive back, all-purpose player, actually sometimes running back, and distinguished himself not only as a football player here, but as a national championship wrestler here at Cortland. Matt Rickert, an 06 alum, tailback, captain of both the 2005 and 2006 teams. That 101st Dragon, that 102nd Dragon to grace Cortland. His touchdown run, actually in the 05 Cortaca victory at Ithaca, was featured on the 06 media guide. And then Rich Coyne, an 07 alum, defensive end and captain for that 06 team, the 102nd Red Dragon, a very talented team here at Cortland. Caitlin Boyes Morzinski, an 08 alum and former SGA president.
I mean, it was just, looking back, it's one of those things that was kind of just a great memory, and one of those defining moments of not just my football career at Cortland, but, my academic career also. So much of that time for me was really dedicated towards the football team and towards my teammates, and that really couldn't have been a better way for me to be able to kind of close out such a great experience all together, and really a great career with my friends, my teammates, all the great coaches that I had as well, and I just remember it being such a great day, such a high level of excitement, and just a great way to finish that game in such dramatic fashion, and to really be able to take the Cortaca Jug home one more time for my senior year.
The one thing that stands out to me was the weather. Me being just always worried about, my freshman year, Cortaca was absolutely freezing in 2003, and I remember, the forecast for that Cortaca in 2005 was, it was like 58 degrees and sunny. So you just kind of felt like it was going to be a great day. And, going into that, I remember the magnitude of the game, knowing that we had to win to make the playoffs. And we were facing a great Ithaca team. And, it definitely just felt like a special day from the beginning. And, from the start of the game to the finish, between, Anthony Morat's touchdown catch in overtime, just, the whole game just seemed like a movie. It's something I'll never forget, as far as it's definitely the game that, stands out in my career for me. But from a team standpoint, it was excellent to step up to that moment and beat an undefeated Ithaca team to make the playoffs. There was no better way to make the playoffs than to do that.
Yeah. Interception in overtime. I still remember your teammates just saying, fall down, it's over with, right? Yeah. Matt Rickert, I still see that picture. It's ingrained in my mind. What are your thoughts on that game?
Echoing what the other guys said, number one, it was such a perfect day. And Cortacas are always special. And I really loved playing at Ithaca. And more so winning at Ithaca, and especially they couldn't get into their locker room after we win a game because we're celebrating on the field. But that touchdown, what I remember most about it was I was happy that I was running to my left because I had a high ankle sprain on my right ankle. And I don't know if I would have made the cut that I made going to the right. So it worked out perfect. And that's just something that, that picture is something that I'll have forever. It's pretty cool that I was able to be a part of that. Yeah.
Just like Matt, I always enjoyed playing at Ithaca, having played high school on a grass field. I mean, we were so blessed to have a great facility at Cortland, one of the best, I think, at the time, best Division III stadiums, and even rival some, D1 stadiums. So to be able to play at Ithaca on the hill in front of thousands of people. It was one of the reasons why I came to Portland. And what's most memorable for me about that game is actually watching Steph start the game off with that interception, running it back for a touchdown, and then stepping in front of his second interception. And for me, I'll remember that one. And the reason why is because it was 3rd and long, and I was on the sideline, not able to rush the passer on those situations. But kidding aside, though, I had the perfect view of the Ithaca fans up on that hill, and the wind came right out of our sail. Once Steph stepped in front of that, and then the explosion, behind us of the Portland fans going crazy. And then, as Matt alluded to, rushing the field. I mean, there's nothing quite like it.
Well, that takes us up to 2006.
Yeah, I remember it being another, big time must-win game to get in the playoffs. And, like you said, Coach, it was definitely, one of the most disappointing things not to make the playoffs. But as far as the game, just remember, big time feeling. We needed to win to get in. And, it was like, how are we going to put points on the board?
Against West Con earlier in the year when Alex went down. And then the week prior to Rowan, with Ray going down, losing that game in overtime. And I remember that bus ride back from Rowan, just kind of talking as a group, as seniors and as captains and stuff, and trying to figure out where we were at as a team. And team is what sticks out to me most of that year and that Cortaca game, is we did anything possible to win as a team.
I think back on that year, I think we had 22-something seniors in 06, to compare it to the 4 that were from 05. A lot of great memories are rushing. I mean, that was a team effort that day, and it was a team effort throughout the entire season. And, it just was a shame that we didn't make the NCAAs that year. But nothing like winning 2 overtime games in a row against our rival.
2005 game, I actually took a bus over to Ithaca, and it was, as you guys went through, one of the best games I've ever witnessed. Crazy experience. And then in 2006, I was the student body president and actually the event manager for the football team. So I had the experience of watching you guys every game in 2005 and 2006 as the event manager. So I was honored to be a part on that side of it, the back end of it. So those games are the 2 that stand out to me the most, being able to experience them in that way. And then in 2008, it was the 50th anniversary. So in 2007, we were trying to get College Game Day to come. And unfortunately, a big game broke, so they weren't able to come that year. But that was a great experience. And then I actually came back to Cortland. It was the special events coordinator in 2013, the year of the riot. So that was interesting, working in the president's office and being on the other side with my boyfriend. I was actually in Ithaca gear, believe it or not, cheering on the Bombers, kind of, not really, but I did have my Ithaca stuff on. So that was an interesting day the next day in President Bitterbaum's office, talking about what happened. And I was in my Ithaca stuff, like I said. And now I have even more of an experience, which I cannot wait for. My little brother is actually at Cortland in his freshman year, and he is a quarterback. So we're looking to see what he will do and see if he'll be able to take on what my dad did and never lose.
Cortland won that one. Two games later in the playoffs, they went to Ithaca, and Ithaca won that game. Ithaca won the national championship that year. They only lost to us. I only lost to them. And from then on, it was 8,000, 9,000 fans. So something's happening back here, Dan.
We'll send it back upstairs, guys. Thanks, Pete.
What happened was an incredible reversal of field by Justin Otera, atoning.
Welcome back to the Cortaca Remembrance, and we're all the way up to 2010 and 2011, and joining us, two great warriors within the context of my, as me being the head football coach. Can't wait to talk to them and have them articulate to you their remembrances. And Dan, let me just kind of talk a little bit about you, Dan, in terms of your celebrity. You know, Dan went on right away from Cortland to go right into the NFL with the Baltimore Colts. And now he's with and joins us in midweek as he is taking his rookie quarterback at Cincinnati into his first season. So thanks for both of you guys being here. Great to have that celebrity. I know there's a lot of people that would want to talk to you just about that, but here we are talking about Cortaca. Guys, Justin, let me start with you. 2010, dramatic 3-point home victory. Featured 17 unanswered points at the mid three-quarter mark, and again began that streak. What were your thoughts?
That, like you said, that was the streak starter. So, like you said, who would have known that was going to be the case for the next 7 seasons? But the biggest thing I remember thinking back through the years of it, it's just I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was a beautiful day out, but it was actually the night before that sticks out the most. Just having the seniors go up and talk in front of everyone, and if you're part of this team and it happened over the years, that's such a staple of what you think about just as a younger player, just looking up to these guys, and they kind of just pour their hearts out in front of you, what the team meant to you, what this game meant to you. And as you mentioned, I think that group of seniors hadn't won a Cortaca at that point. So, I mean, just hearing them just say what they felt, and it was just a big thing to send them off on the right note, and then obviously keep the momentum going the next couple of years. So for me, that was the thing that sticks out the most. Obviously, the game as you're playing it, it's kind of a blur. But looking back at it, still kind of rewatching the games and stuff, it was just a great team win. You know, everyone kind of gave it their all, from the offense, obviously doing what we did, special teams making huge plays, and the defense was a huge part of that team all year. So it was just a full team win. We just kind of grinded it out like we always did. And just going back to what Coach Mac always taught us and kind of instilled in all our groups, I know especially the ones I've been a part of, just the appreciation of the team that we were a part of, and not just the players, not just the ones and twos on the depth chart, the whole team. You know, you appreciate what they did, what the coaches did to prepare for us, what the scout team did to prepare for us, and getting the looks that we saw all week. It was the same exact thing that we saw in the game, and we were just ready for them. And you appreciate that, all the managers and stuff, what they did to get us ready. So it was just a full team win. And like we said, it started the streak, and it kept that momentum going. So it was a beautiful day. As Coach Max always says, what's important now for us at that time was to get in the playoffs, and that was a big way and a big stage to do it. And it was fun. And you look back at it, and it's just one of those memories that you're going to stay with you forever.
Yeah, boy, was it a beautiful day. Now, Dan, you know that closeness that come from that third quarter, unanswered points. What are your memories? What do you take away from that 2010 game?
Yeah, no, it was obviously a great outcome. I remember Justin having a great day. I think my personal performance, if I remember right, I wasn't all that happy with, but we got a victory, which was the most important part. And just to kind of echo all the things that Justin just mentioned, it was, that game, when you go play at Cortland is really kind of one of, if not the biggest reasons why you go, and the energy that you feel around it, and everything kind of culminates with that competition in front of the biggest stage really that you're going to play on as a Division III athlete. So it was a lot of fun, and it was definitely satisfying to get the victory that day.
Yeah, now on to 2011, right? And really the second in a row in that streak. And wow, Dan, we'll start right out with you. I mean, Justin, you became injured, right, in that year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. And so, Dan, the pound is the way we kind of articulated that game. It was the largest point victory that I enjoyed as a head football coach at 27-3 at Ithaca. And you were the leading ground gainer as well as being the quarterback. So Talk to me about that game.
Yeah, that I'll always have really fond memories of that day. That was really the second to last game of my playing career, and just really proud of that team that year, kind of how we came together and the things that we were able to accomplish, and just to go over there and to get the second win in a row on their home turf, to do it with a total team effort, offense, defense, special teams, and to really walk off feeling like I played the best game that I could have played on that stage. It meant a lot to me then. It still means a lot to me, and it's something I'll always look back fondly on.
The kick is good. It's a 4-point game with just inside 13 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. We'll credit the correct offensive line of Amirati, Bloom, Himes, Wootzer, and Castro for paving the way for Otera and setting up the field goal, which brings the Red Dragons to within 4 at 17-13.
Welcome back to the 2010-2011 victory at Cortaca, within the Cortaca rivalry, joined now by Bill Smith, a 2012 alum, a linebacker. Actually, one year he played both linebacker and fullback for me. Talk about a warrior. And he was also a captain of the 107, that dragon that was built and represented the 2011 year. So anyway, he was involved with both victories that we're going to talk about. Obviously, we were in a slump coming into 2010, but the game was, either team certainly knew that either team could win this game. And we had a dramatic 3-point home victory, 20-17, which featured 17 unanswered points from the mid-third quarter, which actually, unbeknownst to everybody, would begin a 7-year-long win streak that we would own in this rivalry. So, Bill, sir, first of all, welcome. And what remembrances can you give to our audience about the 2010 game?
Well, how you doing, Coach Mac? First off, I remember halftime, down 10-3. It's one of those things. What's important now? Let's focus on your assignment. Come out of the gate, Ithaca scores again, down 17-3. So at that point, we lost the first 2 games that I was at Cortland, which my freshman and sophomore year. You got 2 options there. You could either kind of fold or you could fight back. And I remember specifically, actually, Coach Mac, throughout that whole entire week, it's all about special teams. And lo and behold, the punter, downs the ball, Justin Otera scores, and we're right back in this thing. And from there, I think the defense, they stood their ground. They did very well. We all covered our assignments, and we came back to win that game 2017.
Boy, what great remembrances. That's right. I actually forgot we were down that far. And that block bunt, it just sparked everything. And what a great victory at home. And then your senior year, you become captain, right? And you and Captain Pitcher take the team. We all go over to Ithaca, and it's the second of a succession of a 7-year streak where we just pound them. I mean, it was just a pounding. You kind of knew with Cody Allen, his pregame, man. I mean, we were ready to play, and it was, like I said to these guys, the only time in my time as head football coach where I could actually put the second string in at the end of the game. What are your thoughts about that game?
Speaking of like Cody Allen setting the tone right off the bat, he had a phenomenal game. And it just all around, our offense was hitting on all cylinders. Everyone played a great game. I think the thing I remember most about that game is I've never been in a Cortaca before where, you can sit back and really take it all in. But that goes to show because the execution of the first half, if I'm not mistaken, we were up 27-3 or something along those lines, somewhere in the fourth. So you're right. We're able to get those second strings in. We're able to get a lot of players in, a lot of good seniors throughout. I don't know if you remember, I think Chad Stalter had an interception to end that game, which is pretty phenomenal. great Red Dragons, still doing very well. Overall, great senior class in general, and I feel like everyone has taken everything they've learned throughout Cortland, throughout football, and even throughout that kind of game of executing, and taking it to the next level in their careers. So it's great to see as well.
Yeah, fun, right?
Yep.
At their place, and their crowd is draining out before the end of the game.
It's great.
Never really witnessed that before, and so, man, that was neat. And so, thanks for that. And I, as we conclude here, as I've asked everybody, what does Cortaca mean to you?
For me, it was kind of a unity thing. The whole entire campus gets together. Everyone's rooting for the same team. It's a lot like I would say. It's a lot like a spirit week, if you'd say, for a college team, but a spirit week that no one else really has, where everyone is kind of on the same page and everyone wants this win. And, you have, your teachers, you have the Cortland staff, everyone kind of pushing forward for you guys to get that W. So for me, I would say it's just kind of a unity thing, Cortaca.
It's made the play defensively. Cortland takes over with 1:43 to play. The Red Dragons seem to be on their way to breaking Ithaca's 3-game winning streak in the Cortaca Jug game.
So this was actually my first Cortaca game that I had ever attended. It was 2011. I was the president of the Student Government Association, and because of that, it allowed me to do the coin toss, which was a pretty cool experience. Prior to 2011, I played basketball at SUNY Cortland, and so we always had an away game when it was Cortaca weekend. So it was really a beautiful experience to be able to, during my last year at Cortland, participate and go to the game, but also participate at the level that I did, which was really neat. But I think about Cortaca now as an alum, and I see Cortaca as a common thread. Maybe not all alum, depending on the year that folks have graduated, may have a direct connection with Cortaca games, right? But it certainly provides a note of symbolism as to who we are as Red Dragons. I think about, what does it mean to be a Red Dragon? How do we show up for one another? And I would say that in every person that I have met through Cortland, whether it's alum, whether it's students, faculty, staff, we cheer one another on. We overcome difficulties, and regardless of the outcome, right, we hold our heads up high. I think in a lot of ways, Red Dragons, we show folks what it means to be resilient, right? And we lead the way. I think right now we are reflecting on our beautiful game, Cortaca, and we're doing that because we're not able to be there in person, right? Or cheer on through our Cortaca Nation events. We're experiencing 2 pandemics in our country right now. One being COVID-19, which prevents us from being close to one another during Cortaca, and then another being the racial injustice that our country is seeing now and has seen, right? But when I think about those 2 pandemics, I think of unity, I think of resilience, I think of community, and how much that's needed right now. And who better to lead that way than Red Dragons? Cortaca shows us every year, even during a pandemic, that we are a community that stands strong with one another. We're a community that leads. We're a community that supports each other. And in the end, Red Dragons, we come together with a common goal and we achieve it, just like we did in Cortaca 2011.
Pitcher takes the snap. He's got time. He fires downfield. That ball is caught. And an incredible catch. That's Mike Humphrey. 2nd and goal. Fake handoff to Green. Pitcher. He'll fire into the end zone. And that is a touchdown. Cortland Red Dragons. the perfect play there by Cortland, sending a receiver across the formation. They fake a handoff to the left, send the receiver out to the right. They send the receiver to the left, and Cortland is on the board. Nice job by him. The clock will expire. Last play. Hendel throws it up to Ruffridge, and that ball is intercepted in the end zone. And that will do it for the 53rd Cortaca Jug. The Red Dragons retain the Jug for the second straight year. Final score 27-3, and it was all Red Dragons this afternoon.
Joining us now is a collection of warriors in our remembrance of Cortaca as we continue through the years. Each of these guys experienced wins, right? And first up for our 2012 recollection is Pete Fury. Pete is a 2013 alum, defensive back, and he was a captain of that team, the 108 Red Dragon, the 108th Dragon that was built here at the school. Joining him in this remembrance is Matt Ambrose, a 16 alum. He was a freshman in that 2012, but he's in here because of what a feature of he was in on a big tackle at the end of that game, which we're all going to be talking about. And then he went on to play and have an illustrious career as a storied linebacker in all of these games, never losing a Cortaca Jug game. Devontae Davis, a 17 alum, also was a freshman that year, a linebacker for us who would become the captain of the 111 Red Dragon team, which concluded its season in Oregon as an NCAA quarterfinal team. John Mannix, a 16 alum, a storied wide receiver, all-conference wide receiver for us at Cortland, and a fellow four-year victor over the Bombers.
Well, yeah, I knew going into this game, we had already had 2 in a row under our belt. Wanted to keep that streak going. And I'm sure, like a lot of these other guys will say, going into it just as if it was another game. You know, there is the excitement. And on campus, things are getting a little bit crazy. You know, you see people on campus are saying, "Are you ready for Saturday?" And you're thinking, like, why didn't they ask me this all season? You know, every game is just as important as the next one. But then, you know, in the back of your head, you know, the whole time you're saying, you know, it's Cortaca, and this is a big deal for, you know, a whole lot of people, and not just on the team, but the community, the college, and the families, that everyone that we're representing. So, like I said, we were going into it knowing that we had a little streak going. We wanted to keep that streak going and leave, especially us seniors, leave the underclassmen and juniors with something to follow up with.
And we had a 1st and goal for Ithaca to go in, and they would win that game. And it came to be tagged as the yard, a goal line stand to win, a 16-10 home victory, or like Pete said, a streak. Repeat. Devontae Davis, how about your recollection as we wait for Matt to link back in with us?
Especially as a freshman, that was probably the craziest game I think I've ever stepped foot into. Especially, you know, I was a special teams guy my freshman year. Not like Pete, you know, saying John, they all made plays every single down. But as a special teams guy, I knew all I had to do was my role. In that case, coming into a game like that, the people, the environment, the crowd, that was probably, I remember when Pete talked, me and Pete was 5 lockers down from each other. So he was like, once you get out the door, just don't look up. But it's hard enough to do that with every fan and your mom screaming at you. So, and then, you know, with that last drive, I'm a defensive guy. So that was big for us. I just remember throwing my helmet, running like everybody else. And I mean, that was just probably when I'm like, man, I got 3 more years of this. I said, oh, it's everything can only go up, and you just don't want to lose from something starting so magical like that. So that was probably one of the greatest experiences ever.
Matt Ambrose is back with us. Matt, thanks for getting back with us. What are your recollections now?
So, Coach, I mean, I remember, you know, the whole goal line stand, and, you know, starting from the first down play, and, you know, I remember each play very vividly. You know, the first down play, they tried to run to the left. Joe made a great play. And then, you know, on second down, we had that huge play by Andre Goulet. So I think that was kind of the deciding play of that whole drive. That on that rollout play, I remember like looking up after the kid rolled out and my heart dropped because that kid was open and he had some space, and Andre came in and just knocked him clean out of bounds. And without that hit, third and fourth down don't happen. So, to Andre out there, big props to you for kind of saving the day there. Again, just remember like looking at that play very vividly, just running behind it. And then third down play was made by Pete. Like I remember that very vividly. And then I kind of got washed down, and then all of a sudden the running back cut back because they ran his own play. And Pete comes in, and he was the first one to hit, and I just see a wave of red just coming, just knock him down. I don't know how we didn't get in. That was inches there, And then for the fourth down play, again, so much is going through my mind. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but again, I was calling plays, getting the signals, and I froze up, on that drive. I was looking at the sideline, I remember looking at the stands, and the noise got to me for the first time in that game, and I kind of froze up. So I'm looking at Coach Wiley, who's trying to give us the signals, and I couldn't talk. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't see. I was just so the moment kind of overtook me. So I remember some of the defensive linemen like Cancro and Vaughn Labor getting the signals in for us because I just kind of froze up there in that moment a little bit. So that was scary. And then, but the last play, I remember Chris Bright, who was playing alongside of me. He was like, "They're gonna sneak it. They're gonna sneak it," and he was up in the A gap. And for some reason, I just didn't follow suit with what he was saying. I was like, "No, they're gonna run power or zone or something." Because they're going to put it in that running back's hand because that kid was the heart and soul of the team. So, Chris Bright, if you're out there, and you watch this, I went against what you were telling me to do, but I'm glad I did because he kind of got washed down and got bumped into me. And I was looking right at my guard and, he pulled around. So they're running power to the left. And then all of a sudden I see, Phil Bossman shooting, Tolosi shooting. Everyone's shooting in, but not getting him fully yet. And then all of a sudden, he's still standing, and I, get there just in time. And I never tried to run through someone that hard. And, we probably hit a stalemate. I don't think I really drove him back, but it was kind of a stalemate. And the kid went down, and then all of a sudden it was a jubilation from there. But the whole moment, those 4 plays and, just trying to relive that the last couple of days is really going to resonate with me and just how special it was.
John, what's your recollection?
Yeah, as a freshman, and like they said, it was just such a big moment that when you're standing there and just soaking everything in, especially on the sideline, you can't make that play. But I knew we had playmakers like Ambrose on the field that wanted to make that play so bad. So when I saw them running to the outside, right to all of our stud outside linebackers, I knew they were going to make a play. And it's just so emotional. And for the first time at college, I think you really felt at home with all the emotions and everyone banding together and stuff. So it was really cool.
So many highlights and momentum turns, lead changes right to the end.
Is accomplished without great emotion. Nothing, all right? So what a great day to accomplish something great.
Start with you, Jake Ceresna. What are your recollections of that game?
I just remember that game being just such a back and forth battle. We were just going back and forth all game, and I think we had a couple muff punts in that game that kind of kept them into it. That cost us a little bit, and then I just remember that final drive. The ball Hughes threw. It just felt like it sailed in the air forever, man. And Babin came up and just grabbed it over the Ithaca defensive back and ran in for a touchdown, and the place erupted. And then following our score, we're going crazy on the sideline, but Ithaca was driving on us, and they were threatening to score. I think they almost got past. They were getting past the 50-yard line, and Hagan made a great play where he retraced on a quick out route or something, and he came up with the fumble to seal the victory. So,
right,
and the whole sideline erupted, man. That was something special.
That was something special. John Mannix?
Well, I was actually hurt that season, but I got my red shirt that season. But just watching from the sideline and watching someone that you could look up to like Babin as a receiver, it was a great moment. he would always come up so clutch in those moments. And I remember just standing there like, that's going to be me. Like, I want the ball in those situations. So it was still a good learning experience.
As a defensive player, you can't do nothing. But, you know what I'm saying, but trusting your offense. But as Jake said, that was probably one of the great throwing catches I think I've ever seen in my life. In life, not TV. I'm talking about in front of your face. Because, like, you just want him to jump as high as he can and catch it. So, but again, like Jake said, that was a back and forth. That was the defensive game. And then when we needed it, offense was there.
This is a game that comes back to Cortland, and this is the game I was alluding to where Ithaca was 7-3. Cortland is a 4-win team coming in a frustrating year. This game had all the heroics. I mean, it actually had all the heroics.
What a wild experience all around. I think, like you said, the whole season was so emotional because we started out on like a few really games that just could have went our way and just ended up going the other way, and then to win on such a high note, it just felt so great. And then at the end of the game, I think you explained it great. That's exactly what happened. Luke ran out late. I think Goodman was the snapper, and he looks down, and that's something I like to talk about. That snap that hit him right in the knee, that's a perfect snap. And that hit him right in the knee, and it comes right down to him, and Cronin throws a perfect block, and Luke's athletic enough to look right and roll left. And I'm pretty sure I hear Jake screaming behind me to throw him the ball, but I'm pretty happy Luke threw me the ball instead. And then the rest is history. I just look up and everyone's tackling me, and it was just, I mean, reliving it this whole week it's just been chills constantly.
When I think of Cortaca, like that's the year I think of the most, and that play kind of I think embodies the whole game of how excitement around it and it happens. But like John said earlier in the year, we had some tough losses at the end of games that we really felt should have went our way. So going into that game, all the chaos surrounding getting up to that field goal, it was like, oh man, is this really happening to us again? And I just remember I was playing left tight end, and Matt snaps the ball, and I take my steps, and then I look up for the kick over my head, and I don't see it. I'm like, oh my god! I peeked over my shoulder, and it's just chaos going on back there. So I ran my route. I ran to the back corner of the end zone, and I see Luke rolling out. I'm thinking he's going to throw it to me because I didn't even see John run his flat, and then he throws it to the corner. My heart dropped for a second. I was like, oh man, we just lost this. And then I saw John catch it and run it to the end zone, and just pure chaos after that. That's probably one of my favorite moments of playing at Cortland was that win, and I think that really carried us to next year because we won a ton of close games going into 2015, and I think that set us up to win the conference.
Like both of them, my heart was in my shoes too. So I remember Luke running out, and his best friend Mannix was there. So that's pretty much that entire game led up to that point. Honestly, that entire season, because that was tough the way we started off, but then we bounced back because we was on a win streak at the end of that year. So I mean, everything always comes to fruition at the end. So. But like everybody else, I jumped on Mannix. He probably couldn't breathe just like I couldn't under that pile either.
I'm kind of on the left part of the sideline looking up at the crowd. Me and Andrew Tolosi were kind of hanging out back there, just, like everyone said, your heart's beating out of your chest. You know, like you're hoping for the best. And, you know, after John Grassi threw that pass to Jack Delahunty, I thought we were going to go down and score, you know, like just score a touchdown, and that's it on that drive. And then, you know, we get stuffed a couple times on some runs. And then all of a sudden, like, you look at the clock and it's like, all right, like the clock's winding down. We don't have any timeouts. And I don't know if the sideline kind of froze up, or we're like, all right, like we need to get out there with the field goal unit, you know, now, like, and try and do this thing. And then to see Luke go out there, but I think everyone was kind of panicking when Luke ran out, but I was kind of calm the whole time. Like, Andrew Tzlowski was just freaking out about it, and I'm like, Tzlowski, you got to calm down. Like, we're good. Like, he's going to get out there. I mean, we still got like 10 seconds until he got his helmet on. So I'm like, you know, as long as he snaps the ball, like, and he gets it down, then we're good. And then, you know, from my vantage point, again, like, I saw it from like a good overview being on the left side of the sideline. And I just saw Mannix right away put his hand up, and I'm like, all right, like, this is, you know, like, I didn't have any doubt in my mind that once Luke kind of ran out that he was going to complete that, because I saw Mannix run open, you know, from my vantage point. And then, you know, like, as soon as Luke threw it, you know, obviously Mannix is just, you know, has great hands, and, you know, he bought it in no problem, and that was it. And then after that, it was just, you know, to hear the uproar, you know, and like, I try to compare, you know, the uproar of our home crowd.
Cortland's gonna win the football game! Cortland's gonna win the football game! Cortland fans put an open hand up! Have a decade of dominance! Oh my! Oh, it is madness out there right now. That is the greatest finish you will ever see! 5 years in a row, Cortland has won the Cortaca Jug. We'll take another look at it. Certainly wasn't the prettiest, but it's the only one that matters in the end. Here it was. First, you're looking for your holder to come out on the play. Luke Hinton, I think he was trying, you know, I don't even know what he was doing, but here he is. Then the snap doesn't even get to him. He doesn't look. He's not looking, but he's going to get up with it. Nice block there, thrown by the kicker. Mannix releases, and there's nobody there. Makes the catch. Ball game over.
Beautiful play by Mannix to have the awareness that he needs to get out into the end zone and get his arms out and get Luke Hinton.
Now we're going to 2015, and joining us is Steve Ferrara, a 17 alum, our outstanding quarterback who transferred in for the 15 season, where where this team again reached the NCAA quarterfinals and ended our season in Linfield, Oregon. The 2015 would be the 6-peat, right? An 11-8 victory at Ithaca. Just a true battle again. 3-point victory where IC had the ball for the final drive, but our defense came up huge. Great pressure from our defensive end or defensive line. And this team, again, as I had mentioned, would go on to the NCAA quarterfinals and be one of the best 8 teams in the country. Just a real pride-filled year all around. Steve Ferrara is with us. We'll let him go first. Steve, you with us?
I wasn't there for the 14 team and prior, but I transferred in to Cortland. 2015 to 2017 were my seasons. Like you said, like a lot of close battles that year. And that Cortaca game, I mean, had everything to fight for. I know that we were fighting for a playoff spot and the Cortaca to keep the streak alive, and just kind of fighting, just playing with our brothers, just trying to make another game and trying to extend our season. So that game was just a nail biter to the end, a defensive battle nonetheless. 11-8 is not really a great football score, especially from a quarterback standpoint, trying to put up as most points as you can. But, yeah, like you said, it was a defensive battle, and it was just one of those games where you stepped in that stadium with thousands and thousands of fans. It's just nothing like it.
Gets it away, has a man open over the middle. It's Jake Smith. Smith tries to make a man miss, but is brought down inside the 40-yard line, and they'll flip it 42-42.
Jake Sresna, your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, that was a great game. That whole year, we won so many close battles. I mean, Mannix caught the game winner in Heidelberg to start the year off on the Hail Mary. Then we won 2 overtime games against Utica, Hartwick. We won a lot of close games that year, and I remember it came down to, you know, just kind of a storybook ending. It comes down to we got to go to Ithaca, and we got to beat them on their home field to make the playoffs, you know, a lot of us seniors. And and go on and continue our journey. And I just remember that game. We got out there as a defense. I think Matt and Devontae can talk about this too. Is just after the first drive, I just felt like we could dominate them all game long. And the fact that they even put up 8 points against us that year was like, when it came down to that final drive, there was no doubt in my mind that we were going to stop them and seal this victory and walk off champions. And that's what we did. And
they choose not to go with Cagini. They go at the Bombers' best cover corner, Malik Morris. He gets burned. And he got that little that back foot in. It looked like that left foot might have been on the line. Very close call.
Yep, like they were saying, it was such a defensive battle, and on the offense we were trying to get as much done as we could, and we weren't clicking for that game for some reason. We were clicking all season, and they just had our number, and then the defense just came up when we needed them to. But like Jake was saying, I was just so confident in our defense that whole game. When I was watching you guys out there, I was like, they're going to stop them. There's no way we don't stop them. We've been crushing them all game, and I had the utmost confidence in them.
That 111 was very similar to our freshman year. As far if you look at both defenses across the board and our offenses across the board, I mean, they matched up very well. And in the 8-11, like they literally ran the ball against, we had probably one of the best front sevens in the country. So it's like we stopped them. Even when they tried to pass, they couldn't. But I mean, that was a great game. And nonetheless, that whole season, we both fed off each other because there was times where we needed the offense and there's times where they needed us. I mean, that was probably one of the most complete teams I think I've ever played on, besides the 2012 team. And like Manis came up with great overtime catches and Steve throwing the ball and vice versa. We came up with stops when we needed them to. And that whole Cortaca, that last 15 game was like just a completion of everything because we don't win unless they do put up 11 points. Like we can't win with nothing. So, I mean, that game was, and then you win on a championship and then you end and win the conference at the same time, knowing you get a bid. Like that was probably the most fascinating game I've ever been in.
2 wide receivers on the bottom of your screen. Schaefer looking to get away. He's going to be sacked. Gang tackling. Troy Beto may have gotten there first. And here comes the punt team for the Bombers.
And there was just nothing open down the field. Wolfgang Schaefer holds on to it, tries to make something happen. Cortland defense does a great job of getting off
quite a bit today. Brandon Steff stands in his own end zone.
And with how fast this game is going, 9 points, it's very surmountable deficit.
And it's over his head. That's going to be a safety. 11-0 Cortland, and they'll get the ball back.
Yep.
118. Schaefer's head, and he's sacked. Flying in is Matt Ambrose. The Bombers have to take their time out here, right? No, they'll keep going.
I would think so, but they're just going to line it up, and I'm not sure about this.
Right. Schaefer. Falling down is Nick Vallow, and that will do it. He had Vallow open, past the sticks, but he could not stay on his feet.
Yeah, the play call was there. They've been hitting it all day.
That set up a 3rd and 20, ended up being the difference.
You got to commend this Ithaca defense, holding this team to 9 points essentially. The safety gave him 11. Great job by the defense today.
And at the end, maybe the Bombers just left too much on the board. And it's going to result in Cortland leaving with the pair of jugs.
You got to commend it.
Welcome back to the 10th segment of this Cortaca Remembrance. Brett, give us your thoughts about that game, that victory at home, which was number 7.
I think one word to just describe it was electric. That year for us was such a roller coaster. Like you said, we went through so many quarterbacks that year and had so many ups and downs as a team, but we fought back those last couple of weeks, especially Cortaca. Came back and just battled as a group, as you would say, and it was electric. The crowd was insane. It was my second career start. The whole team was just working their tails off. It was a great win for us as a program for sure. Like I hit on it just a second ago, that was my second career. So I was exposed to the rivalry in a huge way at the beginning of my career. But it was a week-long event. You know, you having past alumni come into practice every day and speak to us about how important the rivalry is to the alumni. And so it was really exposed to me right then and there my freshman year. But Cortaca is the culmination of a hardworking season. It's the last game. It's a crazy rivalry. You know, I loved every second of the 4 years I got to play in it. It'll always hold a special place in my heart, and I can't wait to get back for the 2021 game, have my red jersey on, and cheering on the Dragons to get back in the winning column.
Hope you've all enjoyed this 2020 virtual celebration, as it's now the 116th Red Dragon under head football coach Curt Fitzpatrick to recapture those jugs, that experience of joy of Cortaca with his team. And we all look forward to those remembrances. And now joining us is new head coach, Coach Fitzpatrick. Welcome, Coach, as King Dragon. I know you're it will be interesting to hear about the 116th Red Dragon build, especially in these different times. Your thoughts on Cortaca, along with your invitation to hopefully the next Cortaca Challenge. Coach?
Sure. Thanks, Coach, for having me and allowing me to be a part of this special remembrance and celebration of Cortaca. It's an honor, and I get goosebumps listening to Brett talk about his experiences in Cortaca and learning it. In fact, for the last hour before I came on, I YouTubed a bunch of Cortaca highlights, and just gives me chills seeing all the great games and hard fought battles. The 116, this is a year unlike any other. In that any of us have experienced in football. 116's got a 2-year lifespan here, and I see that as a special opportunity to build our team. Our players are hungry. It's been a test of perseverance and patience, but I think it'll make us all better for it when we do get back on the field in fall of 2021. Our guys, I know from talking to our current players and getting to know them as well as I can, and hearing from alumni and hearing stories about Cortaca, I'm just so excited to dive right in and be a part of such a special rivalry and help build on the history and tradition that Cortaca is. And we're not quite sure where the game is going to be played in 2021 because of the cancellation this year. It's up in the air whether it'll be here or down the road. But if they tell us to play it in the parking lot, the 116 Dragon will be ready.